Hey everyone, welcome to Ep.1 of our new nighttime podcast here on Notorious Figures in History, where we uncover legendary figures from history and the stories that shaped our world. Now let's get started. Okay, so think about the most skilled thief you've ever heard of. Now imagine someone so good that when he stole luxury cars, owners wouldn't even realize they were victims for days. That's the story of Pete the Pick Lafroscia, and it's way more complex than just stealing cars. It was a whole mob lifestyle.
So before we got started, I did a little deeper dive into the Pick's background. You know what's fascinating about his technique? The cops actually said they could identify his work by what wasn't there. No damage, no broken glass, just poof, gone. They said he was the best car thief in New York City history.
Well, he wasn't just some random car thief. He was also a brutal enforcer and killer. We're talking about someone who turned Grand Theft Auto into something like, almost like performing surgery. He studied every lock mechanism, every alarm system, treating them like complex puzzles. This dude was nuts.
Well, I read that the scale of this operation was massive. They had this whole setup that was like a Fortune 500 company, except, completely illegal and diabolical. They were making millions and millions.
Right. They weren't just grabbing whatever vehicles they could find. They had these specific shopping lists from wealthy buyers in Kuwait and Puerto Rico. These guys were pulling in something like $30,000 a week each in the 1970s. That's like $150,000 in today's money.
So what happened? How did this whole shit show end? What happens when someone that's skilled catches the attention of the bigger players?
That's where this story takes a really dark turn. See, the Pick's skills made him valuable to Uncle Roy's crew within the Gambino family. These weren't just thieves. We're talking about some of the most feared killers in the mob, like the Gemini twins and Henry Borelli. They were brutal. They were even feared among the gangster world in New York, specifically Brooklyn. They were legends.
Well, that's the thing that sends chills down my spine, how they operated out of the Gemini. They had this weird and terrifyingly methodical approach to everything, whether it was stealing cars or, well, much worse things. These dudes were terrifying. I heard that they would drain their victims' blood in the bathtub while they dined and ate spaghetti. Roy even had an uncle named Dracula. Gross.
You know what's really weird too, bro? The precision and detail the Pick brought to car theft matched their clinical efficiency in other areas. They would actually prepare locations in advance, setting up plastic sheeting and cleaning supplies before bringing in their victims.
And Fountain Avenue, that became their notorious dumping ground, right? Like this horrible open secret in the neighborhood. I think it's amazing how this went on for years.
Exactly. But here's what makes this story even more complex. When the federal investigations finally closed in during the early 80s, Lafroscia faced this impossible choice: cooperate with the government and enter witness protection, or face decades in prison.
And unlike so many others from that era, he chose prison, 26 years behind bars. That's more than a quarter century watching the world change. Well, at least he wasn't a rat.
The scale of their operation was just mind-boggling. They had this intricate network of warehouses, chop shops, and export facilities. They were altering VIN numbers, creating perfect forgeries of ownership documents, basically giving these stolen vehicles completely new identities.
So it was like a witness protection program for stolen cars, if you think about it. Right?
You know what's fascinating about how this fit into the larger Gambino structure? Paul Castellano was at the top, trying to maintain this legitimate businessman image, while below him, crews like Roy's had this unusual amount of autonomy. As long as the money kept flowing up, he was cool with the spaghetti parties, if you know what I mean.
Well, yeah, bro. But that autonomy came with serious consequences. The paranoia, the constant internal checks, the fear of someone talking. It was like a pressure cooker, just waiting to explode all over the city.
And explode it did. Roy was murdered in 1983, likely on orders from above. They say the Gemini twins did it. They found him frozen in the trunk of his car. The feds closed in, and the whole operation began to unravel. One by one, they all went down: Borelli, Center, Testa, and the Pick.
So what's the legacy of someone like Pete the Pick? I mean, here's someone who was undeniably brilliant at what he did, even if what he did was criminal.
Well, that's what makes this story so compelling. It captures this strange intersection of technical expertise and brutal violence that defined that era of organized crime. While we often focus on the famous bosses, it was really the mobsters like Pick who made these criminal enterprises function.
Well, yeah, bro, even today, he maintains that code of silence. Even with a TV series about his life and development, he still won't explicitly admit to any of his crimes.
Smart man. You know what's really interesting? It's like studying this dark mirror of American enterprise, where business acumen, technical skill, and absolute brutality all combined into something that generated millions in illegal profits. It's a reminder that sometimes the most fascinating stories aren't about the bosses at the top, but the soldiers who made the whole machine run. Okay, guys, thanks for tuning in to episode 1 of our podcast here on Notorious Figures in History. Be sure to subscribe, comment, and check out our other mini documentaries on organized crime and the Old West on our channel. Cheers.